This is Shobi One. Thanks for tuning in to the fourth episode of Love, Success, and Real Shit. Man, I'm excited. I got one of my closest friends here, Imran. Man, we've known each other for so long. I think it's over 15 years of friendship. And, it's just exciting to have you on here. It's a little bit different for me, too. So, man, I can't wait to just get started and talk about what, a lot of these things that we just want to discuss today.
Absolutely. First, I want to say thanks for having me, Shelby. Obviously, like you mentioned, we go way back. So it is an honor and privilege to be on the podcast with you.
Absolutely, man. I know we have pretty much a lot of a similar social circle, if that's concerned, or even a social life, and we're going to be definitely discussing a little bit of that. But, a lot of people and a lot of friends that we do know, they're also going to be watching this, and I already know how it goes with some of them. They're going to be like, haha, that's Imran. And they're going to have some jokes or whatever lined up. But I'm over here like, haha, it's Imran. He's going to drop some insight. And this podcast is going to be some fucking fire.
Well, hopefully I can live up to that. Like I said, mutual friends, people that maybe I don't necessarily know personally. I'm hoping that, based on the conversation, they can gain something valuable from, what we talk about.
Yeah, man, and it's super interesting. And, I'm curious to ask you, why do you think that is? We have friends, right? We've known them for a while. But why is it that some friends, are always ready to cap or, just to kind of, get on us right away, but some are supportive. But why is that, do you think?
I think it's the natural kind of course of action that people take. It's kind of like a defense mechanism, I think, right? So at the end of the day, it's not meant to have some sort of malicious intent. It's just kind of to tease and hopefully just poke fun at in a way that still kind of shows love. It's kind of funny, guys and girls will do that in different ways. The way guys tend to interact is a lot more, shit talking or whatever it might be, but ultimately, it comes from a good place. So
yeah, for sure. It definitely comes from a good place, but sometimes it makes you wonder, because as a lot of people know, I also do a lot of videos, comedy videos, and I know it's been a little bit of a pause on that, but I'm gonna get back to it soon. But you were actually a part of one of my comedy videos, and that video did really well. And man, you look like a stud in there. I think you had that role of the girl's boyfriend in that video. The video did really well, but I also know that some of our mutual friends had some jokes lined up for you. And
it's probably not something they would, I guess, typically expect from me. I mean, I'm typically not one to, get behind the lens, the video camera, and put stuff out there. I like to be a little bit more reserved these days. So I think that, and to be honest, most of the people that do have comments, wouldn't take that chance. They wouldn't even, do something like that. So for me, I mean, when I do have the opportunity and more so in the opportunity to help a friend, work with a friend, I want to do my part. I want to, be the person that, is taking the initiative to, whatever resource I can provide, whether it's me actually being on a video, whether it's me promoting a video, whether it's me, whatever it is, I want to be the person that takes that initiative because it's very important to, to support your friends and to, not just be the one that kind of follows the wave, but to hopefully be the one that help lead that wave. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the approach that I take.
No, definitely. And see, that's just a different way and a different perspective. And that comes from you, right? But everyone, has a different perspectives on it, but I sometimes wonder, I've had, all the comedy videos, we had other mutual friends and stuff that are on there and they kind of go through the same thing, they're a group of friends doing that. And I know it's not out of ill will or anything of that sort, but it doesn't make me wonder sometimes, is it somewhat of a psychology factor as well? Is it where they actually probably, low key want to be on there too. They want to star, but they're too self conscious, or they don't think they'll do good. So instead of doing that, they find a way to kind of.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think that, I mean, that you probably hit the nail on the head, right? A lot of people would, love to try something like that and take some of the chances and risks that you do and put themselves out there, but are, like you mentioned, either too self-conscious or, just, too worried about what other people will think, or, just may not think that they'll be good at it or whatever it might be. So, it's just more convenient to be on the sidelines and, heckling or whatever it might be, right? Kudos to you for actually, taking that leap of faith and being confident in yourself and, putting content out there because, like I said, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Right. So.
Oh man. And, to be blunt with you is not easy, and I'm, not certainly the most confident guy on camera, or, as far as, hey, this is going to be my ticket to, directing the next Hollywood flick, or, becoming the biggest podcaster out there, but I certainly see what you mean, and what's crazy is there's also a different side of the coin, is you probably get some people that encourage you as well.
Yes.
Right. And when we did a lot of the videos, man, I was just someone that's doing it in Houston, but believe me, when I have random people, or even some people I haven't spoken in a while, or even some close friends that would reach out, text, DM, or Facebook message and be like, man, I love what you're doing, and just give you random words of encouragement, and you're like, okay, this is pretty badass. And even with this podcast starting off, I had some people that I haven't spoken to in a while that came, and they're like, man, this is really interesting, and I like what you did the first episode, and this is that. So it also happens in that way too, right?
Yeah. No, I think that it's kind of funny, but maybe outside of some of our mutual circles, I tell everybody kind of about what you're doing, about some of the videos that you're working on, or some of the content that you put out, because honestly, I think that you are not only good at what you do, but the passion behind what you do really shows. So, I'm, like I said, excited to not only just, be here and kind of talking to you, but to see what, where things go and how things grow for you. So, the fact that you kind of mentioned that this isn't just for, for this purpose or that purpose, I think will be an excellent kind of stepping stone for you. And you never know where things can go. Some of the videos that you have put out, we live in an interesting day and age where, the internet, social media, things can blow up very quickly. So, some of these videos have, gotten, thousands of views, several thousands of views or whatever. I don't know exactly where they are, but I just know that people from, other states, other countries have seen your videos, and it just started off as, you're probably thinking to yourself, you're just, a guy from, Houston, kind of wanting to, try out some of the different things that you like to do, and like I said, being a content creator and just putting things out. And I think it's pleasantly surprising to see the the outcome, the result of all the work that you've been putting in. So.
Right on, man. And it's super interesting that you say that, because what you said, you've said this to me a lot of times, and I always have Imran in that light, right? That I know that this guy would be supportive, so I appreciate everything that you're saying. And I know there's a lot of work to be done, but kind of still, talking about the previous subject, the things that you just mentioned, you hear that more from, ones that are not your close friends. Maybe the close friends get too tired of doing it, but maybe they want to encourage you more when you're in person together. But, who knows what goes on behind the scenes, right? But why is that? Why is it to where strangers are more inclined in showing that support versus like the super close ones?
It's kind of crazy, but I think I can speak on that from a different perspective, but that's something that I've seen myself. And it's kind of funny because, I think it maybe it's just, the people that are directly around you, whether it's a subconscious thing, They want to see you kind of not necessarily struggle on your own a little bit, but they want to see you, I guess, kind of get the ball rolling. But for whatever reason, once that momentum picks up and you're able to break through, and you're probably in a position where you may not even need your family and friends from a support perspective as much, that's typically when everybody tends to get on board. So it is kind of interesting. It is a trend that I've seen for a lot of people, whether it's somebody opening up a small business or like I said, somebody who's just wanting to be a creative or whatever it might be. Just you can insert the example here, but a lot of times it is the people that are on the outside that are willing to kind of provide that support. And once you kind of build that loyal fan base and following, and like I said, that momentum, everybody seems to kind of come back and
all the time,
get back on board.
All the time, man. And I see it, and I have friends in the same industry or whatnot. When you're out there, you get more people coming out. So
I will say this, not to cut you off. I will say this. With everybody kind of taking the approach that they take, right? Maybe some people are more supportive in person or, still kind of, providing that positive reinforcement or energy your way. The people that don't, I think it's not something that you should allow yourself or other people that are in this position to allow it to hold them back. I think it's just something that you either use as motivation or, you don't allow somebody else's shortcomings to slow you down. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but anyways, I'm sorry. You were saying.
No, I think I was just referring to, just kind of the friends thing in general. I think you're completely right about everything that you just said. But it's still kind of interesting, especially with you and I coming back from several years ago. I think it was, man, just so many memories, right? So many memories of growing up. And what's crazy and what's really, unique about this is that you and I feel like almost share the same type of, our social outlook is almost similar to each other. Meaning that I think we both have a mutual group of friends, but then you also have several other group of friends, and same with with myself, it's just several different groups of friends, right? And growing up, I think you're just so involved and caught up in all these different group of friends hitting you up, right? You don't really check off, what it is to have a really, really good friends that you can really trust. It's just about having a good time. So you have this person hitting you up here, this person hitting you up there, and I know you were kind of just going all over the place, right? And so when you kind of look back at that, how is that different from where you're at today as far as the social life is concerned?
So that's an excellent question. I mean, over the years that definitely changes, but I think that a large part of that kind of has to do, I think, with perspective, with priorities, with whatever it might be, where you are in life at that point in time. But like you mentioned, I think at a younger age, maybe it's just more so about having fun. I feel like naturally been a pretty sociable person. So I've loved being and meeting, being around new people, meeting new people, kind of, learning new perspectives and just kind of, experiencing the world, right. In different ways. So I think how things have changed from that point in time to today, as you get a little bit older, I think your focus starts to narrow a little bit. You start to kind of concentrate on certain things. I think you start to realize what relationships really matter. And then you also probably start to see, which friendships may not necessarily be the best ones, for long-term purposes, right? Every interaction is different. Every person is different. So I think, it's important to kind of understand, where to place those friendships, and not to say that you have to remove people from your life. Sometimes that is a route that you have to go, but I think it's important to kind of understand where people kind of fit in, in your world, in your equation, whatever that might be, right? So I think today, it's gotten to the point where I like to stick to maybe specific circles and specific groups of people. And I think the older I've gotten, what I've come to realize is those relationships to me matter a lot more. And I feel like they are a lot more conducive to my growth and, kind of the next phases of my life. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
And,
What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I'm completely on board with you there. And kind of in a similar fashion. Gosh, this is the nights that we used to have, and I think for these friends that we had temporarily, we used to travel all over Houston, north side, downtown, Galveston, wherever it could be, just to kind of go out there and show our support just because we got a little invite, or and some of these guys are gals, we will probably meet one night, going out, having a good time at a club, and you just become friends there. And, I think, and I see that so much now is because you deal with so much of like fake friends or friends that are just, you meet and you like the attention. You like to say, hey, I know this many people. I also have some cousins and stuff from out of town. They're like, Shobi, you know so many people. And it's not that same feeling once you usually get before. You're like, yeah, but it really matters about who your close ones are, right? Yeah. And that's what's important, And I know we talked about this is that, with our, what you want to call it, social skills or whatever the case might be, we have, to put it in simplest ways, we have friends from different tiers. It kind of goes back to high school, right? You'll have the people that are really, into the education and becoming something. You have someone that's more casual, and someone that's just, laid back and not giving a damn about school, right? And what it translates to now is we have friends that are pretty damn successful, right? Whether it's education, whether it's starting business, whether it's daddy's money, and I don't hate on that, because if you have daddy's money and the resources, but you use it the right way, you're doing what you have to do. So, there's no hate there. If it's good that you got it going on, right? But you deal with those people. You deal with someone that's in the corporate life trying to make things happen, trying to grow that career. And then on the same token, there might be someone that, is just making ends meet. And then we also have friends from back in the days now that are just smoking the joint, smoking a joint, I wouldn't necessarily call them friends anymore, but you and I are no one to kind of be like, oh, this person's coming, let's walk the other way. Like, hey, let's go and say hello if we catch them in the outdoor, if we catch them in an event, kind of catch up for a second, but but at the same time, I think, and I see this with you a lot, is you try to guide them the right way. If you could offer some type of tips, if they could say something, I always say you throwing in a good nugget here and there. It's never. I think we are people that won't have people go down the bad route if they're already kind of there. We're not gonna tell them go get fucked up more, or hey, let's go smoke it up or whatever, when they're already kind of at that path. Yeah. Because we understand that it's kind of hard, and it's a pivotal time in everyone's career, especially at this age, right? So, with having all those friends in different tiers, I think that's why it's important to really now be able to know where your energy is going to be going and who you're going to be spending time with, because believe it or not, that really reflects on yourself. And there's so many studies on that. You see that, psychology studies, and I think, one of several examples, if you have 5 of your closest friends, or a reflection of who you are, if they're all into ball games and they're going to be going to ball games, you're probably more inclined to go to ball games too, right? Yeah. So, with that being said, it's
I think that one holds a lot of weight, actually. That one is, I think there's a lot of truth to that. But it's kind of funny, like, how you're mentioning maybe friends in, different tiers or different, wherever they fall. I think that it's important to not forget, I guess, who that person is, the types of interactions, the types of, whatever relationship that you and that person have, because, maybe somebody that I know who has not, at least in my opinion, maybe maximized or reached their full potential on certain things, maybe they've been a better friend to me than somebody who is on the complete opposite side of that spectrum, who is probably doing really good things, but maybe they're kind of a shitty person. You know what I mean? So it really just depends. I think at this point in time in our lives, and this is something that I was kind of alluding to earlier, but I think as I've gotten older, you start to things kind of start to fit, the perspective kind of, like I said, starts to make sense, and things kind of start to, fall in line, and you start realizing that, hey man, like, number one, I know for me personally, like, I would say within the last few years, I've, actually been, I guess, a little bit more conscious of my own mortality, right? Once you've lived, to be a certain, age, once maybe you're in your 30s or, 40s or 50s or whatever, but I feel like as time goes on, you only become more and more conscious of it. And I've started to become a lot more conscious of that. So with that in mind, I have to really decide and, where am I going to spend my time? How am I going to spend my time? Who am I going to spend my time with? And that's something that you don't get back, right? So I think that's probably the most important consideration in all of it. So regardless of wherever somebody may fall in that spectrum of, friendship or whatever, I just try not to forget, who that person is, the experiences that I've had with this person, and, that's what matters to me.
Absolutely. And to be very clear, it doesn't come from a judging zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It comes from what's going on at the moment. Yeah. If you're not smoking pot, if you're not talking about some random shit that has nothing to do with just like you said, with your growth, then it kind of feels like, what the fuck am I doing here? One, either I'm being fake and I'm being a people's pleaser by joining in on a useless conversation that I have fucking no care about whatsoever. Or two, this is something that interests me, and that is the real friends that I should be around, right? So it makes you think that way,
It's funny you mentioned that because there probably was a point in time, I would say more so in my younger days, where there probably were some elements of being a people pleaser within my personality, right? Same. And more so from the perspective of, making small sacrifices for, what you feel is the greater good, or trying to make the best out of a situation in your, in your mind or whatever it might be. But, I had to realize that, there comes a point in time where you have to prioritize yourself. And that was a lesson that I learned. I wouldn't necessarily say the hard way, but it definitely took some, falling down and getting bruised up,
100%.
So, it's just kind of interesting that you mentioned that.
I mean, shit, we're all fucking people pleasers, dude. And I can't say wasn't on the same boat as you, especially with the pride that we take with knowing so many people. It that has to factor in, right? And that's the reason we are very selective of who we spend our time with now, because maybe our perspective and mindset has changed, because then we're just like, okay, you could fucking be doing this and that I don't give a fuck about, but I'm still gonna fuck with you, and that really didn't do anything for you, right? So it's kind of like, I wouldn't say time wasted because it's experiences, but at the same time, you definitely realize that now, and I think I'm really much in tune with how I feel. Like a lot of the self-development and stuff that you're seeing now, it's really about how your feelings come out, how your energy level is. So when I kind of find myself in a social setting and I'm not really vibing, or I'm not like really getting out of the conversation, or if it's useless conversations, I do, I'm like, okay, I need to get out of here, or I need to go do something. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that's important. And
that's a great thing, though. That's a great thing because I mean, that just means you're more in tune with, yourself, what your own needs are, kind of. And at the end of the day, I mean, that is something that, probably comes with some time as well. At least I can speak for myself, right? Like in my younger days, probably wasn't very self-aware, right? Of maybe things that I was doing good and maybe things that I wasn't doing so well, right? Whether it was just, areas that I need to kind of grow in, or, whether it was, me having to, mature in certain ways. Right. So I think the fact that, now that those are the things that you think about, that's probably where your mind should be. You know what I mean? That's right. You got to be self-aware. You got to understand, situations, scenarios, and, the better that you are at, being self-aware, probably the better you can navigate through those things.
100%, man. And I'm right on there with you. But what really, fucks with me at some point, or when I was really trying to, sit down and kind of talk to myself, over the past few months or years or whatnot, as we do grow older, is that a lot of the people in groups that we did try to people please, they're some of the most judgmental fucks out there.
Yeah.
We're over there, and not necessarily people please, but man, in situations where you might not necessarily know that group of circle when they're friends or whatnot, but for example, if we're talking about, we're from Southwest Houston, but if there's people from Northside, there's just different groups out there.
Shout out to A-Leaf.
Yeah, I know you're with the SWAT, so so it's fascinating that you go and you try to put up a front, right? As far as you and I are concerned, went out, we had a good time, hit up the club, some of the hot spots in Houston throughout our life. It was a good learning experience there too, and I feel like that's a lot of where your creativity comes at, but that's a whole nother topic though. But at the same time,
we should touch on that later.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think we should. But what's crazy is that, you have these things that you do, right, that you enjoy. Not that we're necessarily going out and fucking doing the worst thing, but we're out there having a good time. We have friends that are, outside our ethnic group or whatnot. So, they're having a birthday party and it's a club. We're going out there having a good time. But when you meet some other people, it could be some conservatives or some religious folks or whatnot. At least for me, I knew, I felt like I had to put on a different mask, and kind of, be someone who I wasn't, for I guess acceptance or for people pleasing or whatever at that point. And just like, these people are good. These people are fucking this, this and that. And you already make up all these, you're making them look like a fucking superhero in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Some great person, right? But come to down like a few years later and shit, these guys are doing more fucked up shit than we are. But yet we're still, it comes back and says, dude, you're fucking trying to people please the wrong fucking people, and it just makes no fucking sense because you just wasted that time. You could have been yourself. But once again, it comes from experience, right?
Man, kind of touching on that real quick. So it was something like you mentioned, maybe people that are a little bit more like, I think you and I have a bit more of an interesting perspective because of maybe the community that we come from or, our religious background. And I think that's very relevant to the conversation because, we are, a lot of us are probably first generation Americans or maybe second, or maybe, we, moved here as, kids. So, there's a lot of different things going on that you have to kind of keep in consideration, right? Like you mentioned, maybe there are some people that are a little bit more traditional. There are some people that are, a lot more, religious. But the problem that I think that comes up, and this is where the divide really lies, is that, the word that you use, judgmental, that is, I think, a very big problem within our community. And the problem is, I think everybody tries to put on this act like, everybody is perfect. Like what the facade that's being shown to the world is that, everyone is living this perfect life, or that they are, they're portraying themselves in a light that is not necessarily true. And, that's something that you and I probably had to adjust to. I think in my younger days, there was probably a point in time where maybe I was a little bit more rebellious and didn't care as much. Not to say that I do today. I just think that it's something I try to be more mindful of, right? Because sometimes these people can be, that we're referring to as judgmental could be, very close to us, right? It could be, a best friend, or it could be a parent, or it could be a relative, or it could be, the people that go to your, your mosque or church or wherever, right? So, sometimes I think one thing that I think is very important to be cognizant of is, if it's okay to live your life, it's okay to do, what you want to do. But I think it's also important to be aware of the fact that, what you do and what you say and how you do things, to a certain extent does have an impact on the people around you. So it's just one of those things to be mindful of. But at the same time, I'm all for, living the life that you want, having the experiences that you want, going after the things that you want, right? So that may not necessarily align with, some of those people's thoughts. But at the end of the day, everybody has to live their own life, right?
Not for sure, man. And to everyone out there, even like the younger audiences, dude, mess with people that want to mess with you. Don't go out there and try to push or force yourself into being in the situation or to fit into a group of circle of friends that it's just not working, man. And don't put them on a pedestal because things change. People that try to act like this is one way, and then you see them in a total opposite situation with your own eyes. You're like, okay, that's cool. And feel free to fucking do that. Live your fucking life too. I'm not just saying that, hey, this is a bad person because X, Y, and Z. Because if they're out there and they're not judging us or they're not looking at us in any type of way, then you're fucking live your life too. Let's fucking go, party together or say what's up or whatever. But if you're out there judging us, but yet you're doing the same damn thing, is different. So for you to, being a social butterfly, I don't think it's bad because I know we both could probably talk from experience that there's some benefits that come to it too, which is you network and you get to know a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And what happens is it actually, if you run a business or anything, you actually get a lot more exposure on it organically.
Yes.
Right. So you do have some people that when they are in that need, they could be like, hey, I know Imran or I know Shobi that does that. Let me contact that person. So, from a business perspective, I had a photo booth. Of course, Corona kind of dimmed it down a little bit. But man, that did well because off of a lot of people that I already knew that saw it.
Yeah.
And then, then it kind of goes off from there. Or whether it's a comedy videos, there's a lot of friends that are open to helping you out and reaching out to you. So, it's a pros and cons to it, but you just can't get too caught up in the fucking negative.
Yeah.
And, have your world go downhill if that's the wrong people that you, shouldn't be around with.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Actually, just going back to the business. So there was two things, all right, that I think worked very well for you, and it's probably not necessarily, we're getting a little bit off topic, but I just wanted to mention this. Number one, you had obviously, like you mentioned, being sociable, having a large network that works to your advantage. But when you combine that with an actual, a good product, and something that people want, I think you're bound for success. So just wanted to throw that out there. Once things kind of get back to normal or the new normal, post COVID, post vaccine and all that, I think you should definitely get that back going again.
I mean, same to you. And for anyone that thinks we're fucking like, Mr. Popular, like that's not the case. Houston's fucking huge. So we probably only, fraction of the people there. But it's just, I think it's just in our personalities. Like, we like doing this shit, how we're just talking, and we like getting to know people. Some people are not, they want to just stay in their shell or stay with a few friends, and that's, completely fine too. But I tell my friends and stuff all the time, and this too, like, I like enjoying and going out to places that are packed and lively. Things that are going on, and some people want, one the opposite. They want someone, low key, which is fine at sometimes too. But I like going out, meeting new personalities. I mean, when we travel, love meeting new people out there. Kind of just socializing with them and seeing what's going on. So it's not like a force that we're doing this for a certain reason, and it's not even we're doing it to expand our business. That doesn't even come. It just comes with it, with socializing, because we generally just want to get to know who this person is that's sitting next to us at the airport or wherever the case might be, right? Or if the conversation just goes on. So once you just naturally have that, that kind of personality, the business stuff just comes with it, and we're blessed to be able to incorporate that into it and have that kind of on the rise too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely, I think, for some people, just, a natural personality, kind of thing where, they are, it's easy for them to talk to people. It's easy for them to meet people. They like being around, maybe more festive type of, environments. Like I know, for example, for me, like I love trying new restaurants. I love to explore the city. I mean, Houston has some of the best, in the country. I think you can put us up against, any city, including, some New York or, whatever. And I think we can, stand toe to toe. But that's a different, conversation. But festivals, art shows, whatever it might be, right? Lively events and just kind of being in that setting. I've definitely always found pleasure in that, just because it is more, conducive to my, personality and my nature. So, no, I agree. It's something that fits, and there's a lot of beauty in it. I think there's a lot of beauty in it. So I don't think it's anything to shy away from. I think it's something that people like you and I should definitely embrace and see where it goes.
Yeah, what's fucking wrong with that? So I think it's very important to divide you naturally wanting to talk to people and you being a people pleaser.
Yes.
I think that we unintentionally do that, just because we have that personality that we just get to know people. So it kind of turns out that way. But then at some points when something's not working, but you're trying to people please, that's when you should draw the line and be like, okay, it's kind of like in sales where, you're pitching and that's not the client and it's not going to close. You can let it go.
Yeah, no, that's an important distinction to make, and to have that distinction early on, and as you're interacting with people, because like you said, there is a very fine line, and once you kind of see yourself kind of going over the ledge or whatever it might be to the people pleasing side, that's when you may need to either exit or readjust, whatever it might be. But people pleasing is one of those things like we've kind of talked about. It's not healthy, and also, I think that when you do it too much, you're training people around you to treat you in a lesser way as well, because they know that you're going to be the one that will always kind of sacrifice, or you're going to do whatever it takes to make other people happy.
It's fucking exhausting.
And then you don't prioritize yourself, and they don't prioritize you. So yeah, it becomes exhausting. So yeah, it's definitely something to stay away from.
Yeah, you're fucking trying to be this way with this group, and then another way with this group, and then if all combines, you're like, what the fuck should I do?
It probably comes from a good place, honestly, because you genuinely want to see people happy, and you want to make things work in different situations. So I think the intention behind it is coming from a pure place, but at the end of the day, that's something that is very easily able to be taken advantage of. So you just don't want to put yourself in those situations.
No, and it could get scary, right? Especially if you're not, man. Some of the stories that we know from back then, there might be, you and I, we know kind of a little bit where to draw the line. We might have been a little bit on the people pleasing times at certain times in our life, but then you see other people, and this is the craziest shit. It's because when you see others that want to fit in, right? Not necessarily to our groups, but they might want to fit in with these guys that are all about fucking taking Molly or sniffing fucking cocaine, right? And they just want to fit into the party life, or they just want to fit into whatever fucking group that is, and they never fucked with any of these kind of drugs before.
It's a easy recipe for a bad, a disaster, a downward spiral, whatever it might be. So, if you get caught up into that, and now you're venturing down lanes that you're not, very familiar with, it's like I said, it's a recipe for disaster.
Man, I know 2 or 3 high schoolers, man. One, and I saw him once or twice, and he got involved. I think it was their first or second time doing drugs. And the thing is, like, everyone is kind of young at that point, early, whatever. But they don't even know to tell them not to fucking drive. Right, so he did that. I think it was bars or something. He fucking crashed into a tree and passed away. So it's some serious shit. Yeah. Right, and I think you need to be really like focused on that direction, because it could get scary. And I think also, especially coming back to our conservative, ethnic groups, our background, our family backgrounds, I think it's about time to kind of talk to people about, doing, their kids out there, the parents don't want to talk about it, but the kids are out there doing it.
Oh man, there is a false reality. This is my opinion. I feel like there's a false reality that people live in, because they are too comfortable, what's the saying, believing, a beautiful lie than hearing the ugly truth.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So and I think that that's something that I feel like I've seen it around a lot, and there is actually a lot more going on that either doesn't get talked about, or people choose not to look more into it, or believe it, or whatever it might be. And I mean that's perfectly fine. That's the route that they want to go. But I just think that it's not creating healthy outcomes, and I think that that also just kind of helps to expand and expand on that divide, whether it's generationally, whether it's culturally, whether it's whatever perspective that you want to look at it from. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a taboo, right? You don't want to talk about it, and it kind of, when you really think about it, it is an odd conversation to have, but it's, there has to be a way that it's done, because if you're if you're out there and you're meeting the wrong people and you're getting information about this stuff from X, Y, and Z, and at the same time your kid is more than likely they're gonna have a rebellious phase. No matter if they've been a nerd throughout freaking their educational fucking like high school, whatever the case might be, they might have their rebellious phase. They might want to go out and do that. They might want to question things. It's natural for them to be curious about these kind of things, right? And just to be out there and having a good time and thinking it's safe, because when you meet people and you try to fit in, those people could be generally nice people that just want to fucking smoke, or they want to have a good time. They might have a good heart. They might be caring. But they want to get fucked up on the weekends, with various substances. So the other person doesn't really know. They're like, this is a good person. I can hang out with them. I can bring them home when they're sober and have them, talk to my parents. But then, there's something else that goes on behind the scenes, and that's what needs to be introduced.
So kind of to touch on that, I think that our generation is going to have a very interesting challenge. Because like I mentioned, some people, migrated here. Some people, were for our first generation Americans, maybe second, or wherever you kind of fall on that spectrum. But I feel like, at the end of the day, I think minorities, immigrants, whoever, they don't want to lose their identity, right? That's a big part of, who a person is, and who people are. So trying to find the balance between, the assimilation of cultures and, two different worlds, that's going to be something that, that's something that I think that, we are currently experiencing and we are learning as we go. But I think the challenge is going to be to not necessarily, forget where we come from, forget, our cultures and our background, but at the same time embracing, what comes along with being in another country, right? Or being a citizen of this country, right? So, and obviously, navigating through the challenges that come along with that. So just things that I think that, we're going to need to be cognizant of as we get, further down the line.
Yeah, man. And I think parents need to, face that truth. Your kid might be into fucking drugs. Your kid might be out there, dating someone you wouldn't want them to, or, going a step further and possibly having a child with someone or whatnot, based off of, a little bit of ignorance of not being able to kind of just communicate with them about it, man. I think it's a huge thing. So I'm glad you kind of, you touch base, and I really do like the perspective where you're going with that, man. So we definitely need to change.
We got to adapt. You know what I mean? We just have to adapt and be ready for, the future and what is to come. You know what I mean?
I'm curious how, we have some friends that are married, and they have kids. I wonder how the conversation is going to go when their kids get a little bit older.
I think, they obviously, everyone is going to have their challenges, but I think that, for people within our age group, although they have their own unique challenge, I think that to a certain extent they're better equipped to deal with those challenges based on their upbringing and their experiences. Because, you know, I think for, let's just say, first generation Americans, right? For example, like, and whose parents, you know, brought them here, or they were, you know, born here or whatever. The challenge for them, for those parents, is number one, them adjusting into this new world and new society and new culture, a new way of doing things, and then raising their child within that, right? But in such a way to where they're not losing everything that they, you know, are trying to bring with them here, right? So the difference is, for friends in you know, maybe our age, or people within our generation that are kind of going through this process, they've already kind of experienced it. They've already learned a little bit more to balance it, and I think that that is going to ultimately better position them to deal with those challenges. So, well, only time will tell, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, it's you know, it's interesting, and it goes, you know, it could go in any direction, you know, more to say or whatnot. So man, that's a very interesting topic. I think you know, you being able to be around the right group, you being able to have the right friends, it's only going to help you in where you want to, you know, it's kind of like a guide, right, to what you're eventually going to transform into. But at the same time, you got to be you know, you got to be self-aware of a lot of these things, and it's really tough, you know, because you're still forming a personality when you're growing up. Even in high school, sometimes even in college, you still don't know what it's like out there, or what your likes, your dislikes are, you know, and we have a little bit of a cliche, or a lot of people, you know, worried about bullying and, you know, people liking us, or, you know, am I going to have friends or not? You know, I have some nieces and nephews, and, you know, they like to brag about how many friends or whatever they have, you know. Now with the social media era, you have the likes and all that stuff that's going on. So it just kind of adds to the equation. So, you know, you just don't know where it's going to end, you know, and kind of a solution for it.
Man, knowing a million people is not the same, or is not, you know, it gives you this fake sense of, you know, I don't know whether it's value, power, whatever it might be. But I feel like we talked about, having a smaller circle of, let's just say 5, maybe 10 people in your life, right, that are able to kind of address the things that you need, or that kind of provide value to in your life, and hopefully vice versa. You know, there's so much more value in that, I think, just from I think like a internal peace or self-gratification kind of, you know, perspective, right? Because knowing a million people, maybe it gives you this false sense of, you know, whatever these feelings that you think exist, but aren't necessarily the case. You know what I mean? And there's studies out there that show this, right? People actually get more addicted to the feelings they get from likes on social media, or, you know, interactions or comments or whatever. And it's just kind of, it's crazy to me, because none of that stuff is real. You know what I mean? And I think it's very easy to get lost in that. Man, times are changing. We kind of came up in an era where we were on the end of kind of that old school kind of thought process and mentality, and we kind of throughout our lifetime have seen kind of the world change and evolve. But there's, you know, new generations of people coming up that are only seeing what's going on now, right? So it just makes you wonder, you know, where things are going to go. But, you know, I don't want to sound like, you know, the old man who's talking about like, oh, well, back in my day we used to do things like this. But it's just crazy, because it just feels like the world is evolving and moving and changing so fast. So, you know, hopefully for the better, but maybe in some ways not as much. You know what I mean? So, you know.
And Instagram was supposed to have that no like concept that they were working on. Whatever happened to that?
Honestly, no idea. I remember that there was a point in time where I was probably a lot more active on social media. You know, all of them, man. You know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. I mean, I still use them, I would say, from time to time. I just try to not waste too much time on there. I just try not to get too caught up on, you know, using them every day or whatever it might be, because at the end of the day, you know, those false senses of security or love or whatever it might be, I've identified that, and I don't care for it. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, going back to, I think, our most important resource that we need to take more advantage of is, time. We don't get that back. So I was just thinking about this the other day, but the amount of hours that I've probably wasted, just doing, whatever it might be, scrolling down my timeline, or, interacting on, or just commenting on, whatever it might be, on a post here, or following a certain trend there. And it was like, man, like, when you think about it, like, what value does that bring to your life? What have you gained from going through these motions or whatever? So, I think these days, I probably use them more as tools to, because for me, I work in real estate, and, working as an agent, working as a lender, working as an investor, it is something that you can use to your advantage. So I try to use it more from that perspective, as opposed to, trying to seek attention and fake love. You know what I mean?
Right on, right on. I mean, and there's so many cases of our studies about depression, side along with it. And I'm right there with you, man. I think when it first started and it was kind of hot, and came back to getting to know people and them getting to know you. So it was more fascinating to have that, or seek that attention. But over the years, and I'm glad that we got a glimpse of the no social media era and the social media era, because we know what it does, right? Rather than kids now that are growing right into it.
Yeah.
But from that perspective, I would be off social media as well if it wasn't for the things that I wanted to do. And, it revolves around social media, whether it's podcasting videos, my own personal blogs, or whatever the case might be. If it wasn't for all of that, I would be kind of pretty inactive as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I definitely see what you're saying. And, social media, and, even going with what you're saying, because my background or my business is a marketing company. And man, even for realtors or whatever, it's getting up there.
Yeah.
You post your freaking properties on there and what you're looking at, and people will hit you up on the DMs. I have some realtor, people that are in that real estate, and they tell me, hey, they're getting DMs and inquiries, and sometimes their prospects are coming through social media, and then they go and show them the house, and they end up closing the deal. So it's it's still pretty fascinating.
It can be a valuable tool. I mean, I've definitely, worked with or met new clients. I mean, we've actually, found, I would say not necessarily bought deals online, but we have basically, gotten the information to buy deals online, or, to meet new clients, right, that have translated into, maybe new loan originations or whatever it might be, right? So like, there is definitely a lot of value that you can gain from maybe using social media, or just using the internet at your having the internet at disposal. But at the same time, it's just, as long as you're not getting too caught up in it or using it in the wrong way and letting it kind of take control of your life, or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
It's your purpose, right? What's the purpose behind your social media?
Yeah.
Because it could pose as a huge distraction without you even knowing it, because they say procrastination lies in distraction, where whenever you are procrastinating, you're actually trying to find things that you can kill time with, and instead of doing what's important. So social media, you're on there, and you're pretty much just procrastinating.
Instant gratification, bro.
Right. That's at the same time. So what is it? And I think when it comes, for me, videos, podcasting, and whatnot, in the perfect ideal world, all of this works out, monetarily, grows into a brand, whatever the case might be. But if not, the marketing, when I used to do a lot of the comedy videos and I started a marketing company, I was getting a lot of attention from all those comedy videos where we were doing that. Restaurants or businesses were like, hey, come out, shoot something in our place of work. We'll give you a few $100, $500-$600. And you just have to give us a shout out at the very end. And from there, it turned into more of a business because we got more repeat business out of it, or we upsold them into different things. So it could always work for your benefit, but you have to figure out what your purpose with social media is, right? Because if you're just out there, just like you said, and if you want to follow your friends and family, you want to follow like a very small circle of them. I have a cousin, and he's following like probably 34 people, including some sports, Bleacher Report, NBA, and she's just, he's just doing that. So when they go on there, they're just on there, friends, family, aunts, and just end it there. But anyone else, if you're owning a business or whatever, what is your purpose with social media?
Yep.
So I think it's important.
Yep. No, man, just a couple final thoughts. I was gonna say, man, I think that, like I said, you've definitely used it to build your following or to expand on it, and I think it's complemented you very well. And I think that, like I said, when you are passionate about what you do, you're good at it, and you can kind of combine some of those different elements together with having a large network or whatever. It tends to kind of I would say it basically multiplies your results. You know what I mean? So I think you've done a great job of that. Like I said, very honored and grateful that you had me on the podcast,
Absolutely.
man. I'm excited to see where this thing goes. And like I said, anything that you need moving forward, you have it on video. Let me know, and I'm there for you.
No, I appreciate it, man. And we can definitely touch on more topics. Definitely in the future, man. We can have you come back. But really quickly, I appreciate you coming on. But I do also want to give you a minute or two just to kind of, if you have a business or you are in some kind of thing, just let everyone know what you do, and we can kind of end it there.
Sure. I mean, we'll tell you what. We'll keep this real simple. Maybe I can just send you the link to maybe like my website or my IG or whatever, something like that. But like I kind of alluded to earlier, I've been working in real estate for about the last 6.5 years, commercial, residential, acquisitions, dispositions, loan originations. So, also investing. So I've kind of seen a lot, done a lot, but I have, a long way to go. So excited for the future. I may be, launching a new venture pretty soon, so I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah,
so.
we're gonna stay tuned, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay tuned. So I appreciate you coming by, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Take care, guys. Sweet deal, man. That was fun.
Man, that's this jacket. I started realizing it might not have been the best idea to wear.
Yeah, no.